Business Book Summaries. Hello. Today I'm going to explain the book The Confidence Gap to you. This book is all about helping you overcome fear and self-doubt. But before we dive in, let's imagine a few everyday situations. 1. Imagine you're at a karaoke bar, ready to sing your favorite song. But before you even start, you're worried about singing off key. 2. You've been learning Spanish for a long time, but when you meet someone from Spain, you can't seem to utter a complete sentence. 3. You're sitting at your computer, ready to write a work report, but you feel like everything you write is just garbage after a few lines. Do these scenarios sound familiar? They all point to one thing: a lack of confidence. We've all heard about confidence and how important it is. There are countless books out there that claim to teach us how to regain confidence. They offer various methods like self-hypnosis, getting rid of negative emotions, or trying to relax ourselves when we're feeling tense. Many people have tried these methods, and they may feel better temporarily. But in the long run, that boost in confidence often doesn't last, and they don't truly become confident individuals. Why is that? Is it because they didn't practice enough? Well, today's book doesn't think so. It believes that it's not about lack of effort, but that these methods were flawed from the beginning. You see, faking confidence to motivate yourself for a short-term boost is just a temporary fix. If people rely on this strategy to overcome fear and build confidence, it often leads them into a cycle of constantly trying to boost their confidence mentally. The author calls this the confidence gap. So, how do we avoid falling into this trap? According to the author, what really matters isn't just feeling confident, but taking action. Lasting confidence can only be cultivated through effective actions that create a positive cycle. The foundation of this book is based on a therapeutic approach called acceptance and commitment therapy, a CT. It's quite different from traditional methods that focus on getting rid of negative emotions. Instead, a CT encourages accepting reality as it is and taking determined actions aligned with your life goals. A CT has gained popularity in clinical psychology and is known for its mindfulness-based treatment. Now, let's break down the explanation of this book into 3 parts. Part 1. We'll discuss what kind of confidence the author believes we should pursue. Part 2. We'll learn how to deal with fear while building confidence. Part 3. We'll explore practical methods for building confidence and facing fear. These methods are highly effective, so make sure to read until the end. So, let's get started with Part 1 and understand the type of confidence we should aim for. What truly matters? What's really important in building long-lasting confidence is tackling challenging and uncomfortable situations. This gradual process helps us master new skills and develop lasting self-assurance. In contrast, if we only chase that good feeling of confidence, we might end up choosing the easy path most of the time. This could lead us to a comfort zone where we're stuck. To illustrate this point, the book shares the story of an archaeologist on his first dig. He was searching for tiny fossils in the desert, but everyone else on the team was finding plenty of them every day. This made him frustrated, so he sought advice from the team leader. The leader shared all his expertise and even helped him search, but even after learning everything, he still couldn't find any fossils. Meanwhile, the leader kept finding many. If he had been chasing a good feeling, he might have given up because he had tried hard and learned everything he could. But the difference here was not a lack of effort on his part. He didn't give up. He kept searching daily. After a few weeks, he finally found a tooth fossil. Through relentless training and practice, he learned to distinguish between rocks and fossils. From that point on, he returned every day with finesse, just like the rest of the team. In 2006, he discovered a Tiktaalik fish fossil in the Arctic, becoming a world-famous archaeologist. His name was Shubin. Through Shubin's story, the author reminds us that even though many people pursue the good feeling of confidence, in the long run, this feeling alone isn't a reliable indicator of building true confidence. If we follow our feelings, we'll tend to avoid thoughts and sensations that make us uncomfortable, which psychologists call experiential avoidance. Following our feelings can lead us to pursue things that make us feel good while continuously avoiding what makes us uncomfortable. As a result, we might miss out on many opportunities that could enrich our lives in the long term. Over time, our lives may become limited and unfulfilling, and we might end up trapped in our comfort zone. Ironically, this can cause us to lose confidence. In contrast, our values can act as a compass, providing us with a steady direction. In Schubin's example, he wasn't initially skilled at distinguishing rocks from fossils, but because he wanted to become a professional archaeologist, he was willing to endure the frustration, fatigue, and anxiety of the process. He persisted in searching for fossils daily, training his eyes along the way. Schubin's belief wasn't in the feeling of confidence or the certainty of success, but in his deeply held values. Following those values allowed him to build long-term confidence. In other words, according to the author, confidence isn't the ultimate goal. Instead, it's a continuous process that arises when we consistently adhere to our beliefs and values, living our lives fully and vibrantly. We shouldn't chase the fleeting feeling of confidence, but follow our values to cultivate long-term confidence. Dealing with fear. Confidence is an ongoing process that involves facing challenges. During this journey, we'll inevitably experience various negative emotions, but they often share a common theme: fear. In this second part, we'll explore how to deal with fear as we become more confident. To start, let's look at the author's personal experiences when he was younger. He lacked confidence, especially in social situations. He was afraid that people would find him dull, boring, and unlikable. His anxiety was so overwhelming that he resorted to alcohol to numb himself before socializing, which eventually led to alcohol poisoning during his junior year. He also struggled with insecurity in romantic relationships, particularly fearing rejection by women. He tended to break up after just 2 weeks of dating, not giving his partners a chance to discover his flaws or reject him. During medical school, he constantly felt less intelligent than his classmates. To avoid this feeling, he neglected his studies and often failed his courses. His lack of confidence led him to make unwise decisions and miss out on many opportunities. These negative emotions, including nervousness, worry, timidity, anxiety, and self-doubt, had a significant impact on his life. Handling negative emotions. The author's life experiences resonate with many people, and managing negative emotions has always been a key theme in books about confidence. So, what advice does this book offer for dealing with these emotions? Broadly speaking, it encourages us to confront these emotions head-on. In other words, it suggests that the best way to overcome fear is to face it directly. We should try to encourage ourselves to relax, confront our fears, and dispel negative thoughts until these emotions no longer control us. This is the traditional approach to dealing with negative emotions. However, the author of this book believes that these methods have limited effectiveness because they mainly focus on trying to eliminate fear. The problem is that fear is a natural part of our survival instinct. Fear arises when we encounter real or imagined threats. It's a response deeply rooted in our evolutionary history, known as the fight or flight response. Imagine being in the wilderness and suddenly facing a charging wild boar. You have to decide quickly whether to stand your ground and fight or run for your life. This decision can often mean the difference between life and death. In such situations, our bodies release a large amount of adrenaline, sharpening our focus and increasing our heart rate to help us survive. While we may not face these life-threatening situations today, this fight or flight mechanism still kicks in when we feel threatened, like when giving a speech in front of a crowd. This results in symptoms like sweating, a rapid heartbeat, shaky legs, and a tight throat. Mainstream methods suggest that to become confident, we must battle against this ancient physiological instinct. This is, of course, quite challenging. Even if we manage to control these negative emotions in one instance, they tend to resurface whenever we feel insecure again, triggering the fight or flight response once more. In many books about confidence, Confident individuals are often portrayed as almost superhuman figures, completely fearless and undisturbed. However, this portrayal doesn't quite reflect reality. For instance, the book mentions Nelson Mandela, a symbol of confidence who helped build South Africa. Many remember his confident stride and powerful speeches that filled them with strength. Yet, Mandela himself admitted that he was often very afraid and uncertain about the future. His confidence wasn't about being fearless. It was about not letting his emotions dictate his actions. A psychological study from 1988 in the United States found a similar pattern. During exams, most students experienced similar levels of anxiety. Those who performed well weren't entirely free from anxiety, but they were able to stay focused despite it. The same principle applies to professional athletes during competitions. They also experience intense pressure, which triggers the fight or flight response. Their hearts race, their pupils constrict, and their bodies send more blood to their limbs. However, these physiological responses don't hinder their performance. In fact, many athletes excel under such pressure. Why can they perform better under fear? It's because these athletes interpret fear differently. They describe their state in more positive terms, using words like excited, thrilled, energetic, and eager when facing challenges. The author reminds us that mechanisms like the fight or flight response exist not to harm us, but to help us survive in dangerous situations. Along with fear, this response brings us tremendous energy, allowing us to deal better with external threats. So, instead of striving to be someone who's never afraid, we can change how we respond to fear. By doing so, the energy generated by the fight or flight response can become a source of strength. In essence, fear is a part of our instinct, and it won't disappear entirely. True confidence is about not letting fear control us. The author urges us to look at real people living their lives, and we'll see that real confidence isn't about completely getting rid of fear. Instead, it's about not letting fear dictate our actions. Part 3, Changing Our Relationship with Fear. As mentioned earlier, true confidence doesn't mean we're completely fearless. It means altering our relationship with fear so that it doesn't control what we do. So, how can we change this relationship? In this third part, we'll explore 3 practical strategies from the book: dissociation, mindful breathing, and effective action. Dissociation, unhooking our minds. The author believes that when fear takes over our minds, it's not just the emotion of fear itself that's the problem. It's that our brain becomes controlled by this emotion. It's like a fish caught on a hook. It gets pulled around and exhausted no matter where it swims. To solve this, we need to unhook our minds from emotions that hijack us. We let these emotions flow through us freely. This unhooking process is called dissociation, and it involves 3 key steps. 1. Notice the emotion. We become aware of the emotion. 2. Name the emotion. We give it a name or label. 3. Render the emotion ineffective. We make it less powerful, often through humor or by not taking it too seriously. For example, during public speaking, if we have a critical thought, like "I'm speaking illogically," we can name that inner voice, maybe calling it teacher. The next time it appears, we can say, "Teacher's back. Teacher's going to start talking again." This naming process, mastering the mind through breath. In this practice, the focus is on continuously paying attention to your breath. The author suggests visualizing a stream in your mind with leaves floating down it. Each leaf represents a thought. It could be a distant memory, daydream, or even just pondering dinner plans. When you realize that a thought has taken over your mind and is keeping you from concentrating on your breath, acknowledge it gently and then shift your focus back to your breath. You can do this exercise anytime and anywhere for any length of time. If you're new to it, find a quiet place and try it for just 5 minutes. It's suitable before bedtime, upon waking up, while waiting in line, at a traffic light, or before a movie starts. As you practice, you'll discover that you can control your attention for longer periods, even amid the chaos of thoughts and emotions. This will allow you to move freely and focus on what you want to do. The author emphasizes that both dissociation and mindful breathing require patience and practice. Over time, many people can genuinely feel the changes these practices bring to their body and mind. Once you've adjusted your mental and physical state, you can explore the author's third suggestion, effective action. Effective action, setting small goals. The book shares the story of Joe Simpson, who faced a perilous situation when he fell off a cliff while climbing, breaking his leg. Left alone, he initially focused on daunting long-term goals, like how far he had to go and how long it would take to reach safety. However, this seemed overwhelming, so he switched to focusing on smaller, short-term goals, like figuring out how to descend a slope or cross an ice bridge. Simpson's experience exemplifies effective action. He didn't know if he would be rescued, and he didn't try to conquer fear. Instead, he wholeheartedly concentrated on immediate, achievable goals. The author believes that specific small goals are crucial for effective action. Values provide overall direction, but breaking them down into smaller steps helps us take action, focus, and stay engaged. The author emphasizes that small goals are essential because they are manageable. While we may not always control our feelings, we can control our behavior. When facing a tough situation, we may not feel optimistic, but we can choose to take small steps. Completing these smaller goals allows us to receive feedback, optimize our next actions, and enter a positive cycle. Full engagement and effective action. Full engagement is another vital aspect of effective action. Many people may appear unconfident because they're distracted by irrelevant thoughts. Worrying about how they appear in an interview, fearing their conversation is dull while chatting with someone, or being overly concerned about their stance while playing sports can all affect their performance. To combat this, full engagement is key. It means immersing oneself completely in the task at hand. During this process, if emotions or distracting thoughts creep in, you can use the previously mentioned methods of dissociation and mindful breathing. Effective action combines these techniques, helping you focus on small, achievable goals and fully engage in your activities. Conclusion. To sum it up, the author suggests that building long-term confidence requires continuous effective action. In the first part, we discussed the idea that confidence isn't merely a feeling, but a process tied to our values. The second part delved into the author's perspective on fear that we can't eliminate it, but can change how we respond to it. Finally, in the third part, we explored three methods: dissociation, mindful breathing, and effective action. If you want to explore these viewpoints further, you can engage in discussions or consider reading the original book for more in-depth insights. If you found this video helpful, consider purchasing the book through the link in the description. If you have any feedback or would like us to summarize another book, feel free to let us know. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.